Welcome to the lecture on ACL reconstruction rehabilitation phases and key clinical milestones. I am Major Arun, and in this session, we will explore how ACL rehabilitation is structured, why progression must be milestone based, and how to integrate clinical evidence into daily practice. ACL rehab is not just a linear, time driven process, it is a dynamic program shaped by biology, tissue healing, and patient specific responses. By understanding each phase, we can optimize joint stability, neuromuscular control, and safe return to sports. This lecture will serve as a roadmap and guiding you through each rehabilitation stage step by step. Our first objective is to understand the chronological phases of ACL rehabilitation from immediate postoperative care to long term return to sport. Secondly, we will identify key clinical milestones within each phase, and these act as checkpoints that determine whether a patient is ready to advance. We will learn how to apply evidence based progression criteria so that advancement is guided by function and not just time. Finally, we will explore how to evaluate outcomes using both clinical findings such as range of motion, strength, and functional tests such as hop and balance tasks. Together, these objectives ensure and we approach ACL rehab as a criteria based, patient centered continuum. Rehabilitation after ACL reconstruction is a structured, progressive process aimed at restoring knee function, mobility, and strength. The outcome depends not only on the quality of surgery but equally on the quality of rehabilitation. Evidence based rehab protocols are essential. Without them, graft integrity may be preserved but function may not fully return. Rehab is typically divided into phases, each guided by clinical milestones rather than arbitrary timelines. The primary goals across all phases remain the same: restore stability, recover range of motion, re establish neuromuscular control, and achieve safe return to sport. The rehabilitation journey is best understood in sequential phases. Phase 1 focuses on early healing and protection. Subsequent phases address proliferation, ligamentization, strengthening, proprioception, and progressive loading. By phase 6 and 7, we progress into advanced agility, plyometrics, and eventually sport specific training. Each phase builds on the one before. Skipping steps risk the graft overload, while unnecessary delays can lead to stiffness and weakness. This framework provides clarity for both clinicians and patients. In phase 1, our goals are protection and recovery. Edema control is critical. Swelling can inhibit quadriceps activation and delay mobility. We protect the graft by controlling load, avoiding excessive strain on healing tissue. Wound healing is closely monitored, ensuring infection and delayed closure does not occur. Range of motion is restored gradually, aiming for 0 to 90 degrees within first 2 weeks. Partial weight bearing with crutches and brace provides early mobilization without compromising graft stability. By the end of phase 1, there are clear milestones to achieve. The knee should reach full passive extension to 0 degrees because failure here risks the long term stiffness. Flexion should reach at least 90 degrees, which allows basic daily function. The patient must perform an independent straight leg raise without lag, a key indicator of quadriceps activation. Minimal joint effusion is expected, Persistent swelling suggests overload or poor tissue healing. Meeting these milestones confirms readiness to move forward. Interventions in this early phase are gentle but essential. Cryotherapy helps to control swelling and pain. Ankle pumps and heel slides promote circulation and reduce the stiffness and prevent deep vein thrombosis. Quadriceps sets re-establish activation of quadriceps, counteracting arthrogenic inhibition. Patellar mobilization prevents adhesions and ensures smooth patellar tracking. Assistive devices supports weight bearing and protect the healing graft during ambulation. Progression to phase 2 requires objective benchmarks. The patient should perform a straight leg rise in brace without extension lag. The surgical wound should be clean and dry, signaling proper healing. Range of motion must be progressing appropriately, ideally 0 to 90 degrees. Finally, the patient must be able to partially bear weight on the involved limb safely. These criteria ensure both graft protection and functional readiness for the next stage. In phase 2, we aim to restore mobility and initiate functional loading. Range of motion should continue progressing, achieving full extension and at least 90 degrees of flexion. The patient should now perform a straight leg raise without extension lag, a marker of quadriceps strength. Normal gait is developed, ideally with a single crutch and an unlocked brace. This is the phase where independence in mobility begins to return. Milestones in this phase confirm functional advancement. Fully extension is achieved while flexion progresses to at least 120 degrees. Crutches should be discontinued once gait mechanics are symmetrical. The patient should perform a straight leg raise without lag and begin initiating closed kinetic chain exercises. These markers indicate readiness to transition from assisted to independent mobility. Interventions in phase 2 build strength and proprioception. Stationary cycling promotes range of motion, cardiovascular endurance, and symmetrical movement. Mini squats and step ups strengthen the quadriceps and glutes in a closed chain joint safe patterns. Balance and proprioception training reintroduce neuromuscular control. Quadriceps strengthening continues to be emphasized, both isometric and dynamic. Together, these interventions lay the foundation for higher level function. Before entering phase 3, the patient must demonstrate full extension and 90 degrees of active flexion. Straight leg raise without extension lag. Normal gait using least restrictive device, ideally unaided. These criteria confirm that the patient has regained both mobility and sufficient stability for higher demands. In phase 3, the goal expands significantly. The patient should regain full active range of motion equal to uninjured. Normal gait without assistive device should now be routine. Independence in activities of daily living should be restored. Full weight bearing is expected, but week 3 to 4, the brace can be typically removed. This phase marks the transition to functional independence. Stones include symmetrical gait and full range of motion. Patient should be able to begin brisk walking or cycling with minimal discomfort. Quadriceps strength should reach at least 70% of contralateral lip. This strength benchmark ensures safe tolerance of progressive activities. Meeting these milestones means the patient is regaining functional performance. Interventions in this space broaden the rehab program. Leg press and hamstring curls add strength in controlled ranges. Lunges and step downs build eccentric control, essential for that stair descent and running preparation. Proprioceptive training is progressed with more dynamic balance challenges. Cross training activities maintain cardiovascular endurance while minimizing knee stress. This integrated program advances both strength and neuromuscular control. Progression requires equal bilateral knee range of motion and normal gait without aid. The patient must demonstrate understanding of precautions regarding graft vulnerability at this stage. Single leg standing without assistance should be achieved, proving balance and neuromuscular readiness. These markers provide confidence to enter the highest stress phase of rehab. Phase 4 is a critical period because the graft is biologically at its weakest. Therefore, no impact activities such as running, jumping, pivoting, or deep squatting are permitted. The primary goal is to strengthen safely while protecting graft integrity. We build single leg balance, initiate agility drill, and cautiously progress the load. This is the transition from basic function to controlled sport specific preparation. Milestones include initiating hop testing, though cautiously. Quadricep strength should exceed 80% of the contralateral limb. Single leg balance should be strong with minimal compensations. Agility drills can be introduced once mechanics are safe. These indicators confirm readiness for higher impact integration. These interventions expand to include plyometric drills in controlled context. Lateral movements and multidirectional patterns challenge stability. Strength training continues with progressive resistance. Balance and proprioceptive exercises are advanced with unstable surfaces and perturbations. Sport specific agility drills are carefully layered in always respecting graft vulnerability. Progression to phase 5 requires several checkpoints. The patient should perform a bilateral squat to 60 degrees with equal weight distribution. The knee should be quiet, minimal pain, minimal effusion, and no instability. Quadriceps girth should be within 1 to 2 centimeters of the uninjured side. Single leg balance on the involved limb should exceed 30 seconds with minimal sway. These ensure readiness for controlled impact training. In phase 5, the goals are symmetry and control. Quadriceps girth should be nearly equal to the contralateral limb with an average monthly gain of 1 centimeters in early phases. The patient should perform a single leg squat to 60 degrees with proper form and no valgus collapse. Symmetry, strength, and control define this space objectives. Milestones now include pain-free jogging and slow running. The Y balance test should be within 90% of the contralateral length. Hop symmetry should exceed 85%. Agility drills should be completed without pain or instability. Meeting these benchmarks indicate readiness for sports like loading. Intervention in phase 5 become more dynamic. Treadmill running, shuttle runs, and ladder drills improve endurance and agility. Interval training develops cardiovascular conditioning alongside functional loading. Strength and plyometric progression continues with higher intensity. Cross training remains valuable to maintain fitness without overloading the graft. This is where athletes begin to feel like athletes again. Criteria for progression include nearly equal quadriceps girth, within 1 centimeter of the contralateral side. Single leg squats to 60 degrees must be performed with proper technique. Single leg balance should be maintained up to 60 seconds. These confirms readiness for the advanced sport specific stages. In phase 6, strength and endurance are pushed further. The patient should perform single leg squats to 60 degrees for 20 repetitions with control. Single leg stance balance should be sustained for at least 60 seconds. Single leg calf rise should reach 30 repetitions, reflecting endurance capacity. These goals demonstrate readiness for advanced plyometrics and sports drills. The key milestones in phase 6 include passing hop tests with over 90% symmetry. Plyometric drills should show satisfactory movement quality. There should be no valgus and there should be no trunk compensations. Clearance should be obtained from both physical therapist and surgeon at this stage. Psychological readiness, measured through validated scales, is also essential. These milestones mark the threshold of return to sports readiness. Interventions expand to full sports specificity. Athletes engage in advanced plyometrics, complex agility tasks, and simulated game situations. Perturbation training challenges reflexive stability. Strength continues to progress, now mirroring sports demands. This prepares athletes for unrestricted return to competition. Before entering final return to play, the athlete must demonstrate endurance and control. 30 single leg calf raises, 20 single leg squats to 60 degrees, and 60 seconds balance are mandatory. These benchmarks or criteria ensure the limb can tolerate repetitive sports level demands safely. They also confirm readiness for unrestricted plyometric and agility exposure. A return to play requires objective testing. The hop test, such as single, triple, crossover, and 6-meter hop, must demonstrate symmetry and good quality. The Y balance test confirms dynamic stability. Strength should be validated with isokinetic testing or handheld dynamometer. Agility should be assessed with sport-specific drills such as T-tests or shuttle runs. These provide a comprehensive readiness profile. In conclusion, ACL rehabilitation is the safest when structured phase by phase, guided by milestones. Individualized recovery ensures respect for biology, healing, and patient response. Functional milestones, not just time, must guide advancement through each phase. The ultimate goal is safe return to sports and activities of daily living with durability and confidence. This structured, evidence based pathway ensures both safety and long term success. These protocols are grounded in recent evidences. The ASPETA Clinical Practice Guidelines, Brinley and Schneider, Data and Criteria Based Progression, and Bruckner and Kahn's Sports Medicine text provide strong foundations. By aligning with this evidence, we ensure ACL rehabilitation reflects the latest and best clinical knowledge. For optimal recovery, it is essential to follow the rehabilitation exercises in the demonstrated sequence, beginning each session with a structured warm up and concluding with an appropriate cool down. This systematic approach ensures that each step builds on the previous phase, promoting safe, effective, and progressive rehabilitation. Patient videos and images shown in this presentation are used with prior informed consent.
जय हिंद।